Voter, of course, you can still stay here at town meeting, but we ask that you sit in this section over here to my right, down in the front, that's for non-registered voters. Regarding the meeting itself, please remember that our meeting is governed by town meeting time, as well as our bylaws and our town charter. There's a glossary of terms and motions, etc., at the back of the warrant that you should have picked up when you came in the door and registered. The meeting is being recorded by ECAT for people to view at home, and so it can be viewed in the future. More importantly, our town clerk, Danielle Sicard, is making an official record of this meeting. She'll be recording names and addresses of the speakers, motions, votes, voting on the motions, and each article, among other things. Therefore, it's really important for us to all follow procedure. If you'd like to speak on any article, when it's time to speak, there are two microphones kind of between in the mezzanine-like area that I'll ask that you go to. Remember, you have to keep your comments focused on the article. Each person can speak one time relative to any single article. Prior to speaking, I'm going to ask that you tell us your name and your address, again, because it's being recorded by Danielle Sicard, and we need to have a record of who is speaking and when. There's no set time limits on how long you can speak, but again, try to gather your thoughts before you go to the microphone. All speakers will be treated with courtesy by the moderator and everyone else in the room. No speaker will be allowed to use the meeting for individual or personal attacks on any individuals. All remarks will be directed up here to the moderator. If you wish to make an amendment to any motion, you must do so in writing. If that becomes an issue, we have paper up here, which you can do that if it becomes something that is necessary. Voting is done again by a showing of hands. We hold up our orange cards when we vote for something, again when we vote against it, and we count based on the number of orange cards that are held up. So I will recognize any motions to move the question, but if in my opinion there are still people waiting to speak who may add to the discussion, I'll exercise my authority to not accept the motion at that time. So again, the clerk has confirmed that the return of the warrant is in order and we do have a quorum. So at this point, I'd like everybody to rise so we can pledge allegiance. And we don't have anybody to lead us today, so we'll all lead ourselves. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So today is Monday, November the 10th, 2025, and it is now 7:14. The special town meeting for the Town of Easton is now called to order. Article 1, Select Board Member Fulgenetti.
I move that the town vote to appropriate by transfer from free cash the sum of $461,854 to be placed into the stabilization fund.
Second.
By way of explanation, this article moves approximately 25% of available free cash to the stabilization fund in accordance with the town's financial management guidelines. As presented at the May annual town meeting, the failure of the override necessitated significant use of stabilization fund, which cannot continue in perpetuity. It's important to build reserves back after significant utilization in the non-override fiscal 26 budget, as the town anticipates additional waves of significant budget cuts in fiscal 27 absent an override. Select Board recommend.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 1? Okay, seeing none, Article 1 requires a simple majority vote. All of those in favor of Article 1, please raise your orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise your orange cards. And Article 1 passes by majority. Article 2, Select Board Member Fulgenetti.
I move to dismiss Article 2.
Second.
By way of explanation, there are no prior bills to be paid. Select Board recommends.
And so I assume there's no questions, comments, or concerns here. All those in favor, we need a simple majority of dismissing Article 2. Please raise your orange card. And all of those opposed, please raise your orange card. And Article 2 passes by a majority. Article 3, Select Board Member Fulgenetti.
I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $300,000 to supplement the fiscal year 2026 fire and rescue budget and $35,123 to supplement the fiscal 2026 maturing debt and interest budget, and that to meet this appropriation, $83,238 shall be raised from taxation, $35,123 shall be transferred from the septic betterments receipts reserved for appropriation, $45,153 shall be transferred from fiscal 26 planning and economic development budget, $47,007 shall be transferred from the fiscal 2026 health and community services budget, $100,000 shall be transferred from the fiscal 2026 employee benefits and insurance budget, and $24,612 shall be transferred from the sale of real estate receipts reserved for appropriation.
Second.
By way of explanation, this article will provide additional funds to the fire department to cover increases in overtime due to vacancies and set aside funding for collective bargaining. Additional debt service funds are also required for Clean Water Trust financing that recently became permanent and will be funded from septic betterment revenues. The Select Board recommends.
Select Board Member Fulgenetti, before we move on to whether or not the Finance Committee recommends, will you accept a friendly amendment? The amount of reserve for appropriation, I believe you said 45,153. I think it has to be 45,143, according to the warrant. About halfway down the motion.
Can't find it. Oh, 45,143?
Yes.
I have to get my glasses checked. Sorry about that. 45,143 shall be transferred from the fiscal 2026 planning and economic development budget.
Okay. So does Select Board recommend?
Yes.
And Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends.
Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article number 3? Okay, seeing none, Article number 3 requires a simple majority vote to pass. All those in favor of Article number 3, please raise those orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise your orange cards. Article 3 passes by simple majority. Article 4, Select Board Member Barger.
I move that the town vote to appropriate by transfer from free cash the sum of $195,000 for purposes of funding and implementation analysis and associated consulting services related to privatization of ambulance services and to cover costs associated with the transition to the new response model and any unforeseen costs needed to stabilize the fire department during this transition.
Second.
By way of explanation, the fiscal 26 override contingent budget would have sustained funding for fire staffing at fiscal 25 levels. That budget was not approved, and 2 firefighter positions were cut. Numerous additional budgeted personnel have since resigned. Coupled with injuries, the available staff at time of writing of 34 firefighters represents a 23% loss of staffing compared to the FY25 budget of 44. This results in significant involuntary overtime and a department that cannot continue to operate sustainably. Fire Chief Justin Alexander is here with us tonight to give the public a brief update on the status of the fire department and how this article will assist in its transition to a new model of operating. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends.
Chief?
Thank you. Justin Alexander, your fire chief. So the presentation tonight is to explain what is happening. The funds here are being asked for to help us, but as this is a significant change, it's a major shift in how we operate. I felt it was very important to tell you all why and what's going on and how we got here, so you understand what the ask is about. So how do we get here? So we're going to privatize the ambulance. That's happening. That's a decision that we've had to already make. And how do we get to that major seismic shift in how a fire department operates? Well, we got to go back a little ways. So what we came into was back in FY23, we had a period of time where we were slated to have 10 firefighters a shift. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight, and I'm going to use the term drop. So the term drop means we have 10 firefighters working, but we can have 2 off without causing overtime, which means we can drop down to 8. 8 was our minimum. It is our minimum that we run typically now. So when I say drop, 11 drop to 8, 10 drop to 8, you know what I'm talking about. A little bit of fire jargon, a little bit about how the fire department operates tonight. The inner workings. So we said, hey, well, we got 10 on paper, but we only had 9 firefighters per shift. So we had that 9 drop to 8 model. And the market for paramedics is really tight. There used to be 700 plus paramedics trained every year in the state. It's about 100 now, 150 at most. And the fire departments need paramedics more than ever. And as a result of that highest need in history and the lack of paramedics, fire departments have resorted to taking firefighters from other fire departments now. There are no new ones really out there. So we said, hey, well, what are we going to do? So we took a look at our model and took a look at our funding and said, well, why don't we just stay at 9 and we'll use overtime and just run the department that way. So we did that. And what we found out was, and you'll see the slides up here for your reference. I'm going to keep speaking. There's a lot of facts up there for you to reference as well for each year. And what we did is we ran that 9 model. And we learned was it does work financially, it does work operationally until you take into account the human factor where we were burning out our firefighters with forced overtime, staying for 72 straight hours. And we got to the other side of it when we got together with our firefighters, who was our most important asset, and said, hey, what are we doing? They said, you're burning us out. We got to come up with something better. So the deputy and I got together and we took a look at our numbers and we said, hey, we can go to 11 firefighters a shift instead of 9 using the same money by taking that overtime money and shifting it to salaries without asking all of you for more money. We can do it within what you're already giving us. So we did do that. And thank you to all of you for the support. We did that. We started going to 11 a shift. That 11 dropped to 8. 3 people could be off. No overtime costs. It worked out great. Morale was good. You added some new equipment for us. We had the buildings coming, so that was on the horizon. We became a destination. We became a place people wanted to come to. What ended up happening was, as we go forward through the years, we got into a phase where most of our new hires were transfers from other departments, and that says something, right? And they want to be here. We noticed, once we got all these people in, we said, hey, well, the budget started getting tight. Like the reality of these big increases, the health insurance increases, the things we couldn't foresee came upon us quickly, all of us. And we were forced to stop the build out. So we stopped our build out midstream and said, hey, what are we going to do? So now we're going to hold on to what we got, try to make the model work. But then we came into FY25, which you see on the screen here, where we realized the model of 11 dropped to 8 was potentially in danger. We weren't going to be able to maintain what was a high morale, high, desirable thing. And when we started looking in further into FY25, we realized that we should stop hiring altogether because FY26, which we're in now, was looking so bad that we weren't able to guarantee everybody was going to have a job that we were hiring. Well, that's a seismic shift for a young department. We're a young fire department. We're approaching, since I've been here in May of 2021, so just over 4 years, there have been, I'm proud to see the family grow, but there have been 30 new babies, just shy of 30 new babies. We are a young department, and all these young firefighters have these young families they're trying to support, and when we hire them and tell them, oh wait, you may not have a job, we're not sure, that scares them. And they started to leave. And I don't blame them. They started to go. And then we had some injuries that are going to result in retirements. You have the firefighters leaving because of their livelihood. We had some people get promoted and go to other departments from promotions. One made a chief and went somewhere. One made deputy chief and went somewhere. So when you add all of these up, we are now down 25% roughly of our department, which is a whole shift, better than a whole shift. We're a 4-legged table missing an entire leg right now. We fell down this hole so quickly, so fast, in a market where there's no one to hire unless you're stealing them from another fire department, as an unmarketable town, because who's going to come here wondering if they're going to have a job in 6 months? So when you add up this perfect storm, the override failed, all the people are gone, we can't hire them. what do we do? So we went back to the drawing board and said, well, what are we going to do? So that takes us through 25 and 26. And when we get into the model of how do we operate now versus later, we talked at where can we shed a responsibility and make our firefighters safe. And that's going to take us into the idea that we have 8 firefighters working right now. We're going to go right to a slide here to save some time. We have 8 firefighters working. So you can look at this screen, and I'm also going to use my fingers. So for those who can see me, I got 8 fingers up here. If you can't tell, I'm telling you. These 4 go to the hospital all the time on our 2 ambulances. That leaves 4 firefighters to protect all of you when they're at the hospital. Nearly 26,000 residents, 30 square miles, and a very hard response time. If you're going from Roach Brothers to the Norton line, that is a run. And that's what we're doing day in and day out right now. We can't keep that up. Our firefighters are doing that on 72 hours of straight work. They're tired, they're burnt out. It's just not sustainable. So when you look at this model here, you see our firefighters are at the hospital with those ambulances. And on the left, you've got your 2 fire engines. Does this mouse carry? It doesn't. So you have your 2 firefighters, 2 fire engines with 2 firefighters each on the left side of your screen. That's all that's left in town when the ambulances are at the hospital. What not available means in the top center means that because we don't have the staff, the ladder truck doesn't go out the door. The officer in charge doesn't get to be the officer in charge. They have to be the firefighter on the truck pulling the hose or doing the work, not actually standing back. So the person in charge is supposed to stand back and make sure everybody's safe, that the firefighters are safe, that you're all safe, that no one's going to get killed. That's their job, but we can't do that the way we're operating now. So, what are our options? Well, this is our option, and it's the only option we got. And it's not trying to be dramatic, and I'm not trying to scare everyone, but we got to find a way to protect you with the resources we have. And right now, we have 8 firefighters, and we're not going to get any more anytime soon. So, when you add in the private ambulance model, we have 2 ambulances now, Easton Fire ambulances. They're still going to be there, but just going to be private ambulances. So you're going to gain, those 2 ambulances will stay, but you're going to have private staff on them. So you're going to have 4 people on those 2 ambulances, 2 each. Well, remember those fingers I held up? Those 4 that go to the hospital don't go to the hospital anymore. They stay over here and stay in town. So 8 firefighters are going to stay in town when the ambulances are at the hospital. 7 if someone's on day off, but no less than 7. They're going to stay in town to protect you. So this is a way, a workaround, to keep our staffing up in town, not at the hospital, to protect all of you. Additionally, it puts more firefighters on a fire truck, which is how we stay safe. We are a team sport. You need firefighters on a truck, and 2 is what we do right now is not enough because there aren't enough people to do the job. 3 and 4 is how you actually get fires put out and how you make rescues. You know, you've seen the work that happened in Fall River and the challenges they had with that big fire down there, the big fire in Amherst who followed that. That was a lot of fire for just a small department to handle. We're trying to position ourselves better. Would I love to stay at a larger staffing model and keep the ambulance and grow the department in that aspect? Of course, this is not my first choice, nor is it my first option. But what we got to do is we got to do. We have to do this, and the ask tonight is to help do that. You will end up with a situation where, with a lack of additional resources, we're going to find a way to keep you safe. And the reality is you're going to have Easton Fire paramedics on these trucks. Your 2 fire engines are going to be staffed with paramedics. They're going to be staffed strategically in town. They're going to have all the equipment they need to provide ALS, advanced life support. That's what the ambulances have now. They're going to have that equipment, the cardiac monitors, the CPR machine, the IV supplies, the medications that they need to treat you. So that where we're strategically placed in town, we're probably going to get there first most of the time. And you've got these great, our staff is second to none. They're going to get out there and they're going to do that work. And when the private ambulance gets there, because they're coming from probably our Depot Street station, our existing one that was renovated, so they'll be coming from Depot and Washington Street. And when they get there, we're going to have already started aid, been ready. There's going to be no delay in service. You're going to see maybe an improvement in service because the way we're going to be spread out and the fact that we're keeping our staff in town, we're going to be able to provide a better response model with the resources that we have. So you're going to have all these are benefits that you get, but remember, we're making the most out of a lousy situation. So it's not what we want, but we're making the best of providing you the most benefits we can. And that's the goal. So where are we going to go? Stabilize the department. How are we stabilizing it? We're going to fix, you already voted to help support our contract that was just settled, so that helps stabilize it. That's one piece of the puzzle. We're going to put better staffing on the fire engines to keep you safe, and privatize the ambulance to keep more Easton firefighters in town to keep you safe and keep them safe. That's another piece of the puzzle. We have the equipment that's coming, our buildings that are coming. So when you add all of these pieces together, it's going to stabilize the department in the situation that we're in. Does that mean we're done forever and we never need anything else? No. Like, we're making the most out of what we have. You know, if we could have 9 or 10 firefighters in this model, that would be way better, much safer, because we can actually, 4 firefighters is what you want on every fire engine. We're going to have 4 and 3 and 1 if no one's off, but it's progress. So when you take all these pieces into account, we're going to make it go, and we're going to make it work. And I just want you all to realize that while it's going to be different, we're going to find a way to keep you safe. I'm not here to scare you. It's unfortunate that we're in this position. It saddens me. It's a piece of the fire department's soul that I feel like we're losing. And that's painful as somebody who is, I chair many EMS organizations. I'm a paramedic. I'm proud of it. It is painful. But I've accepted the fact that given what we have, this is what we have to do. And I'm here tonight to make the case for the additional finances, money tonight with this article to help make that transition and give you our commitment to protecting all of you and hopefully your commitment to helping us do the same to protect you. Keep us safe, we keep you safe. That's the message. And we need to protect our firefighters, and that's my #1 job, to protect our firefighters, because without them, I can't protect you. So with that, thank you all. Appreciate your support.
Any questions, comments, or concerns? Thank you, Chief.
Mike Duffy, 178 Washington Street. Chief, thank you. I'm a firefighter for 20 years in Waltham. I'm from a large department. We get 170 guys, so we're dealing with 2 different worlds. My fear of this is going private, and this is actually a question I don't know. Our 2 medic trucks, or BLS, ALS, I'm not sure what we have here. The revenue we have, are those funding our firefighters? How is that working? Are we going to lose that revenue? Pretty sure we are, because it's going to be a 0 bid, if I'm correct. Is that, we're going to lose that revenue, that money that we get from the ambulance, go right to the, we're going to start losing firefighters because now we don't have 2 ambulances?
So there's a couple pieces there, and you're absolutely right, and I'm happy to answer those. So we are, yes, the ambulance revenue, right now, there's $1.7 million in the current budget, town budget. It's not an enterprise or anything like that. It's in the town general fund. So that goes away. But when you take out the salaries, because of the difference in staffing level that we'll have, when you take out benefits, pension, health insurance, the cost of running the ambulance, debt service, all the pieces, it almost offsets it. Now, anybody who's watching the other meetings I've had on this isn't a budget neutral option. Like, we're not saving money. This is going to cost a little bit of money to do, for sure, over, in any other model, but it's a lot less expensive than trying to find the funds to go back to a staffing model that keeps the ambulances, that works, which is 11 or better. So yes, the loss of the revenue is there. This is not budget neutral, but it's the best of the options given the amount of money the town does have. As far as staffing and to protect our firefighters and make sure that there's going to be firefighters left to protect you. So we've done a lot of work with the contract around this. Very important to me, keep our firefighters staffed and protected. Piece manning has gone into the contract. So we'll have 2 pieces staffed with 3 minimum. Command is listed as piece staffing as well, with a shift minimum of 7. And we'll do the 8 drop to 7 model, and hopefully maybe get to 9 at some point, so we can actually staff 2 industry standard trucks going out the door. So a lot of moving pieces there and a lot of technical stuff if you're not in the fire service, and by all means ask a question if I confuse any of you with that. But those are the pieces on how we're going to address the revenue loss and the keeping the firefighters staffed and not lose them as part of this transition.
Thank you, I agree. I think it's important that we have at least 3 firefighters on each truck, if not have 4. But, and obviously this is going to work, so I'm voting yes for this, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 4?
George Wheeler, 10 Lothrop Street. I thought I heard from the chief say that the new buildings are not going to cost any more money to run your department. Is that correct?
The new buildings are not going to cost any more money? I don't believe I said
The
that.
cost of upkeep of the properties, the hoses, I don't know what else you need in the new building, but usually when I move from one house to another, that's always costing me because I have to buy this and buy that, and it's got to come out of my.
So as part of the building project, any of the new equipment that would be in the new stations is in the cost of the new building.
Okay.
So that would be part of it. So there's not an extra meeting that we're going to come back to town meeting next year or something to ask for new equipment for the new buildings. So that wouldn't happen. So there is new equipment for the new buildings that's built in, and a lot of what we do have is good and current, and that would come with us to the new buildings. So it's kind of a combination of the two of them, but I don't envision a special ask just for outfitting the new buildings, if that was your question.
Well, my other question would be, when I went through the academy, Easton Academy, one of the first things you said to us, and it made sense to me because a number of different firefighters over the years have told me that ambulance thing is a profit center, great money. But I think when it comes to, you only got so many people at work, then you worked it out fine. I agree with you. And that's all I had.
Thank you. I mean, I'll just, to your point, sir, if money wasn't an object, which it is, that's why we're here having this discussion, I would rather have 12 or 13 firefighters working and staff 2 or 3 ambulances and put on, that's the model, my first choice. Like, that is what we want. We just aren't there, and we had to come up with something different.
Are we going to use Brewster, or is that the one?
We're in negotiations now to discuss, with each one to figure out the candidates that are out there to figure out which one it's going to be, and we'll hope to make that decision shortly.
Thank you.
Hey, Chief. Gary Erickson, 134 Sheridan Street. Just want to say thank you for trying to find a creative way to keep us safe, and I appreciate that in the fiscal climate. My question is, this change, how does it impact the taxpayer of Easton?
From a tax standpoint or an emergency response standpoint?
From a tax standpoint.
So from a tax standpoint, what we're doing is the least expensive option to stabilize the fire department. So, anything we would want to do that would go back to that model of having 11, 12, or 13 firefighters a shift would cost substantially more, and I'm talking 7 figures to really stabilize it in a model that big. So there's really no in between, unfortunately, because at 9 firefighters, we burn them out. That does work financially, but we burn them out and people start leaving again. And that's what we're doing right now to our firefighters. And to go up to 11 or 12 isn't a financial option right now. So I think we're doing the best that we can for your tax dollars in the situation we're in.
It certainly sounds it, and I thank you. Perhaps I didn't ask the question in the correct form. Privatization of the ambulances. What is that going to cost someone who takes a ride in that ambulance?
Understood. So the way the privatization model will work is they'll send the bill for the ambulance. So the exact dollar figure that they'll charge, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend that I do. But one thing I will tell you is most private ambulance companies have contracts with insurance companies, which means they accept a lower rate for the cost of the transport. We don't have any of those contracts, so our rate's actually pretty high. As far as like fire departments go, we're right up there because we've all tried to bring our rates up to try to support the lack of revenue that's coming in overall for the budget. So our rates are actually pretty high right now. So I wouldn't anticipate substantially more, and potentially if they have contracts with your particular health insurance, it might be less.
Okay, I may be completely wrong, but right now, Easton does not pay any money for ambulance rides, correct? A person taking a ride to the ambulance that doesn't go insurance, that's paid?
So we bill, so the one service we do bill for as the fire department is an ambulance ride. So you could see anywhere from a $1,500 basic transport to a $2,500 or so advanced life support transport that would be billed to your insurance or to you if you don't have insurance.
Okay, so I'm going to end it there because I've never gotten a bill, so thank you.
Smart man. Any other questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 4? Okay, seeing none, Article 4 requires a simple majority vote. All those in favor of Article 4 passing, please raise those orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise those orange cards. And Article 4 passes by a majority.
Thank you.
Article 5, Select Board Member Barger.
I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $716,864 to supplement the capital budget needs of the town for fiscal year 2026 as listed in the warrant under Article 5. And to meet this appropriation, $250,000 shall be transferred from sale of real estate receipts reserved for appropriation. $83,864 shall be transferred from the Capital Stabilization Fund. $45,000 shall be transferred from the Police Cruiser Revolving Fund. $88,000 shall be transferred from water surplus, and that the treasurer, with the approval of the Select Board, is authorized to borrow $250,000 for the crane truck under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, or any other enabling authority, and to authorize the Select Board to do or take all actions necessary or convenient to carry out these projects on behalf of or in the name of the town.
Second.
By way of explanation, this article addresses additional capital needs for fiscal year 2026 that were not funded at the annual town meeting in May. Given significant revenue constraints in light of the failed override, the fiscal 26 capital program will be limited to the most essential items only. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Capital Planning Committee. They recommended. Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 5? Okay. Seeing none, Article 5 requires a 2/3 majority vote in order to pass. All those in favor, please raise your orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise your orange cards. And Article 5 passes by 2/3 majority. Article 6, Select Board Member Barger.
I move the town vote to accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 54B, to allow town trust funds to be invested in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 203C, the so-called prudent investment rule.
Second.
By way of an explanation, Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 54, directs trust funds to be deposited in Massachusetts banks or in bonds or notes, which are legal investments, the legal list, as determined by the Commissioner of Banks. This list includes commonly recognized companies such as Bank of America Corporation, Coca-Cola Company, and General Electric. Mass General Law, Chapter 203C, the so-called Prudent Investment Act, includes a provision to municipal investment regulations. Effective July 1, 2023, Chapter 44, Section 54B1 provides a local acceptance option that allows investments of trust funds outside of the legal list so long as the investment is prudent. This allows the treasurer and the town's investment managers to direct investments to a larger and more diverse group of investment opportunities, such as international mutual funds, ETFs, stocks, and bonds. Investment strategies can be tailored more specifically to the nature, goal, and objective of the investment without sacrificing gains on investments. Prudently investing trust funds could easily yield returns that are double what is gained at present. Lastly, prudent investment strategies are already in use for our OPEB trust fund, which are not subject to the same restrictive legal list, and at least 60 of our sister cities and towns have accepted this option as a responsible investment strategy. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 6?
Thank you. Suzanne Bump, 6 House Shop Street. Just a couple of questions about this. Is there a legal definition of the term prudent? And are we using a financial advisor to help us make decisions as to other investment vehicles that will be used?
Good evening. Linda Hawks, I'm your treasurer and tax collector. The first question is, no, there's no legal definition of prudent. It is what it is. You invest prudently, which we have in any event. We do utilize the professional services of Bartholomew and Company, and we've used them since 2005. They've worked well for us. They also have a presence in about 240 of the 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts. So they're a very solid company.
And do you have a plan, once you have this authorization, how you will phase in, for different funds, start to use different vehicles for, or is everything going into one big basket to sense?
No, if the article were to pass, I would have conversations with Bartholomew. Right now, we have an investment policy. It's written, it's advertised on the website. And we would just discuss which better ways we could go with the money that we do have in the trust funds. This article covers about 20% of the trust funds that we have. This would impact only about 20% of the trust funds that we have. And it would just give us more flexibility. So is there a specific direction that I would go right away? No, because the investment advisors would be looking at the market as a whole and making decisions with me.
Right, thank you. Just stay away from crypto, huh?
Oh, yes, yeah, agreed. Thank you.
Dale Carrister, 21 South Street. So am I correct that currently your discretion is limited, and so absent allowance of this article, you have a more limited offering of what you can invest in?
That is correct. For the 20% or so of the portfolio that is would be subject to this, right now we can only invest in a certain number of companies, the Coca-Cola, GE. These are companies, it's an old law. The Municipal Modernization Law of 2020, or Act of 2023, is what inspired this article. This allows us to go outside of that restricted list of investment companies so that we can use any publicly traded company.
So it doesn't compel you to make some other decision, but rather gives you greater discretion to
Greater discretion, greater flexibility. The whole portfolio could be a little bit more diverse. The OPEB, our OPEB funds are not subject to the restrictions that the other trust funds are. And at the end of fiscal year 25, OPEB had earnings of 9.4% or so. The funds subject to the restricted legal list were 6.05 or something like that.
Unless I'm missing something, I don't see any downside in
There
providing that greater
would be
discretion.
no downside.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Okay.
Jeff Hansen, 9 Judith Road. I just have a question. How much money are we talking about here? I have no idea how much this trust fund is worth.
On September 30th, we had about $28.6 million in trust funds. But of that amount, only $5.8 million would be subject to this article.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 6? Okay, seeing none, Article 6 requires a simple majority vote to pass. All those in favor, please raise those orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise your orange cards. And Article 6 passes by majority. Article 7, Select Board Member Lamb.
I move that $1 million be appropriated for the purpose of financing the following water pollution abatement facility projects: repair, replacement, and/or upgrade of septic systems pursuant to agreements with the Board of Health and residential property owners, including, without limitation, all costs thereof as defined in Section 1 of Chapter 29C of General Laws, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the Select Board, is authorized to borrow $1 million and issue bonds or notes, therefore, under GL Chapter 111, Section 127B and a half, and/or Chapter 29C of the General Laws or any other enabling authority. That project and financing costs shall be repaid in the first instance by the property owners in accordance with those agreements. However, any but such bonds or notes issued by the town shall be general obligations of the town payable from any and all sources of funds, that the treasurer, with the approval of the Select Board, is authorized to borrow all or a portion of such amount from the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust established pursuant to Chapter 29C and in connection therewith to enter into a loan financing agreement and/or security agreement with the trust and otherwise contract with the trust and Department of Environmental Protection with respect to such loan and for any federal or state aid available for the projects or for the financing thereof, and that the Select Board or other appropriate local body or official is authorized to enter into a project regulatory agreement with the Department of Environmental Protection to expend all funds available for the projects and to take any other action necessary or convenient to carry out the projects. Second. By way of explanation, if approved, this will allow the town to avail itself of funds available through the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust at an expected 2% interest rate, which will then be used to provide loans to residents for the express purpose of upgrading or replacing failed septic systems, including connecting to a sewer. The funds will be offered as betterment loans, which will be paid back with interest over a period of time not to exceed 20 years. Betterments appear as additional charges on the real estate tax bill. The Board of Health began accepting applications for this program in January of 2012. Through this program, the town has provided $5.8 million in loans to date, resulting in more than 200 system upgrades. The approval of these additional funds will allow for the continuation of this program. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 7?
George Wheeler, 10 Latham Street, Easton. I'd just like to know if Article 7 and Article 10 are related. There's 10,000. Article 10 has 2.2 million.
No, they are not related.
They're not. They're separate properties, separate groups of land, I guess. Not related.
So they're entirely separate, and the language is confusing because the state uses similar language for both. So Article 7 is for the septic loan betterment program, which we act as basically the loan officer and administer for property owners. Article 10 is a borrowing authorization that would allow the town to get to work on designing sewer in the industrial park, and you see the language betterment in there. That is also the same word that state law uses to describe improvement liens that the town can place on properties who have access to a new sewer. So this is to authorize more funding to come through for the town to lend out to property owners to fix septic tanks. Article 10 is for designing a sewer construction project.
Okay, I'll save my question 10 question till then. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 7? Okay, seeing none, Article 7 requires a 2/3 majority vote. All those in favor of Article 7 passing, please raise those orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise your orange cards. And Article 7 passes by 2/3 majority. Article 8, Select Board Member Lamb.
I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $96,997 to pay the cost of accumulated sick leave required to be paid by collective bargaining contract, and that to meet this appropriation, $66,832 shall be raised from taxation and $30,165 shall be transferred from free cash.
Second.
By way of explanation, a small number of fire department employees are grandfathered into previous but no longer existing contractual sick leave buyback provisions. This article would fund those obligations for recent retirements and separations from service. It is estimated that fewer than 15% of existing personnel remain eligible for this provision. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 8? Okay, seeing none, Article 8 requires a simple majority vote. To pass, all those in favor of Article 8, please raise those orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise your orange cards. And Article 8 passes by a majority. Article 9, Select Board Member Lamb.
I move that the town vote to appropriate by transfer from free cash the sum of $35,000 to conduct a Public Works Stormwater Utility Feasibility Study.
Second.
By way of explanation, stormwater management aims to prevent threats to life and property from flooding and to maintain safe and passable streets. Recently, federal and state regulations have imposed stringent requirements on communities to manage stormwater runoff locally to address adverse impacts. In recognition of critical importance of sustainable stormwater management, growing state and federal regulatory requirements, and declining general fund public works revenue to address these requirements and associated infrastructure needs, the Town of Easton established a Stormwater Utility Steering Committee. This committee is charged with working collaboratively with the Director of Public Works to assess the feasibility of establishing a Stormwater Enterprise Fund utility under the legal frameworks governing municipal stormwater utilities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This article would provide funding to the Citizen Committee to perform such feasibility. This article does not create the utility, which can only be done by voters at a future town meeting. The director is with us tonight to give a brief presentation.
Thank you. Good evening. Dave Field, Director of Public Works. So I'm here to talk about the stormwater utility. A stormwater utility is a dedicated, predictable revenue stream that basically assesses user fees based on the amount of impervious surface a parcel owner has. This request is for $35,000 to support the feasibility study. The steering committee will study this issue and make a recommendation to town meeting, hopefully in May of 2026. A vote to approve this article does not create the utility now. Why a utility? The town has a significant amount of existing stormwater infrastructure, which is past its useful life, requiring millions of dollars worth of repairs and replacements. New state and federal regulations will require more millions of dollars investment in upgrades, and there is currently no source of funding in our operating budgets at this time. Some examples, we recently completed a stormwater asset management plan for 112 culverts throughout town. The 5-year action plan recommends $16.9 million to address just the 8 most critical culverts. Our current MS4 permit, which is something we've had to comply with since 2003, is up for renewal, and the draft comments, the draft regulations are going to require us to replace 20% of our non-compliant catch basins. That could mean about $7 million to replace 700 basins. We currently have about 400,000 linear feet of drain line in town. 125,000 of that is corrugated metal pipe. This is a pipe that was used primarily in the 40s through the 70s. We recently had an issue on Bay Road. We had a sinkhole open up. When we put a camera in there to camera that line, we basically found no pipe left. It was just soil in a pipe shape. So it's a very critical issue. We went to immediately replace that section of pipe at 1,200 feet. If you look at the cost we spent on replacing that pipe to do the whole 125,000 linear feet, you're looking at $15.6 million. So those are some daunting numbers. Some of the allowable uses of a stormwater utility, we can use it for operation and maintenance of our existing system, capital improvements to that system, including retrofits and new infrastructure, regulatory compliance with our MS4 permit, street sweeping, catch basin cleaning, public education and outreach, all required as part of that stormwater permit, and administrative costs to run the utility. Some of the example communities that have already done this, way ahead of us, and then most recently Canton in 2025, are listed on the screen above. Using an example similar to Canton, again, the committee has not started the study on this, so this is hypothetical, but just to give everyone a kind of an order of magnitude of what we're looking at. If we were to do a similar model to Canton, who adopted basically $100 per residential property fee a year, $25 a quarter, we would be looking at taking our 5,675 single-family residential parcels and taking that median area of 3,800 square feet and using that as a basis for an equivalent residential unit. So every single-family residential unit in this hypothetical scenario would get a $100 fee. Every parcel that wasn't a single-family residential unit would have their total impervious area. In impervious area, I probably should define that, is basically your roofs, driveways, walkways, sheds, things like that, things that don't absorb water. You would take whatever the impervious area of those other parcels, divide it by the median single-family home, which is about 3,800 square feet, and come up with a residential unit. There are basically a little over 12,000 residential ERUs in Easton, and assessing $100 per residential unit would generate $1.2 million a year in round numbers. So that's basically what we'd be looking at if we did adopt a stormwater utility and it was some similar to KIN. That's going to be up to the committee to recommend to you all in the future, and we'll be hosting, hopefully with this $35,000, outreach and get some input about what a stormwater utility would be for Easton. In conclusion, all parcels would be assessed a stormwater fee based on the amount of impervious surface they had. Parcels with the greatest amount of impervious surface would pay the most, the highest fees, while single-family residential would pay the least. Even tax-exempt parcels that do not pay taxes would be subject to this fee. Approving the article tonight does not create the utility, but allows us to study this and report back to you.
Thank you. Regarding recommendations, Select Board Member Lamb.
Finance Committee recommends.
You're thinking back to recommend.
And Finance Committee.
Stole my thunder.
Finance Committee recommends too. I take it. Okay. All right. So any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article number 9? Okay. Seeing none, Article number 9 requires a simple majority vote in order to pass. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. You got to go up to the microphone. I didn't see you.
Hi, I'm David Plant from Berwick Road, 14 Berwick Road. Just a quick question on how would you determine the impervious area at every parcel in this town?
That's a great question. So we would use our GIS system. So our GIS system, Geographic Information System, is basically like a fancy Google map. We have extensions that are available to us for a small fee to determine the amount of impervious in every single parcel. So we've run this analysis. The analysis I've done is based on our last flyover we performed in 2017, the last time town meeting funded an orthophoto flyover. We came up with that impervious surface based on basically fancy orthophotos where the images are taken and analyzed. Mm-hmm. We can do that now through an extension of one of the products we use now. The assessing department uses Nearmap, and we have access to that for around $5,000 a year to every year get the latest and greatest update and then put that into our GIS system to figure out the amount of impervious in every single parcel.
So it would be a variable fee per residence, as an example?
So as an example, yes, but every single residential unit, whether it had 500 square feet or 5,000 square feet, would all be assessed the same for simplicity's sake. So every single family residential parcel would get the same residential unit fee. In this example, we used $100. Every parcel that wasn't a single family residential unit would then have that calculated based on the equivalent of one residential unit. So a big shopping mall might have 20 residential units in it instead of the single family fee. That's just the example that I'm giving that was done by Canton and Dedham, and most of the other ones that have come before us have done a very similar fee structure.
So in this sense, though, that does have the possibility of penalizing smaller residential
No,
areas,
so
correct?
if you have any amount of impervious surface in your single family residential unit, you're going to pay the same fee no matter what, just for simplicity's sake. So whether that's you call that penalizing or not, it's basically for billing ease to make sure that that works. Because the most single family residential units here in Easton are very similar in size.
Okay, to be debated otherwise. Take care.
Stephen Salisbury, 30 Short Street. I have a question. What percentage of town is tax-exempt parcels?
I don't have that information off the hand. I'll give it.
I don't have an exact number, but it's a decent amount.
And at this point, you're saying tax-exempt parcels would be taxed?
Well, this is not a tax, it's a fee. And I know I sound like I'm splitting hairs up here.
No, it is a tax.
It is a fee under the law. So just like water is a consumption-based fee that whether you're tax exempt or not, you pay for your use. Just like sewer is a fee, you pay for your use. This would be the same model. And so we'll obviously be working with legal counsel closely here.
So you're considering it a utility?
Correct. Yes, but this article, again, doesn't establish the utility or the fee. This article just gives the citizen committee funding to do a good process so that these kind of more detailed questions can get hashed out by your neighbors on that committee for a final presentation to town meeting.
So what percentage of the town is tax exempt?
I don't have that exact number.
Why did we come to the point of saying tax exempt parcels need to be taxed? Subject to a fee?
I don't understand your question. I'm sorry.
At what point does tax-exempt parcels end up becoming taxed because of firefighters or of police? I think it's a slippery slope to start saying tax-exempt parcels should be subject to a fee. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
I'm Lisa Butler. I live at 71 Gaslight Lane. When you're talking about single-family dwellings, how do condos figure in with that? Is that going to be the big thing for the single-family units for each unit?
Yes, that's the intention. Obviously, we have not come up with the model, but typically a larger development like a condo complex like Gaslight, it's got a good area, but when you look at the size, the amount of units that are going to get assessed, it's going to be probably on the lower end. Just talking round numbers, but as we go through this process, we'll actually have all the results of every single parcel as we go through this, hopefully this winter, so everyone can see what their impacts are.
For Gaslight, we have 110 units, so would that be 110 units assessed, or would those units split like a open area?
Yeah, under the example that I'm showing that Canton used, it would be the entire area divided by an equivalent residential unit and then distributed to the owners of those parcels. So in that example, it's going to be lower than $100, is my belief. So again, all that will be public knowledge. Everyone will be able to see exactly what each parcel is going to get assessed at. But in general, the lowest fees are going to be your residential units, whether it's condo or single family, are going to end up lower than your typical large commercial industrial users that have more impervious, that generate more stormwater and create a tax on our system, our culverts, things like that.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 9? Okay, Article 9 requires a simple majority vote. In order to pass, all those in favor, please raise your orange cards. And all those opposed, please raise your orange cards. And Article 9 passes by a majority. Article 10, Select Board Member Stacy.
I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $2,200,000 for industrial park sewer design services, and that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, is authorized to borrow $2,200,000 under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, or any other enabling authority, and to authorize the select board to do or take all actions necessary or convenient to carry out these projects on behalf of or in the name of the town.
Second.
By way of explanation, earlier this year, the town executed an intermunicipal agreement with the city of Brockton for up to 80,000 gallons per day of wastewater treatment capacity at the Brockton AWRF to provide sewer to the Easton Industrial Park. Providing sewer to the Easton Industrial Park would empower economic development and drive sustainable local revenue. Securing this regional infrastructure opportunity has been a policy goal of the town for decades, and the entire industrial park was included in the sewer district maps adopted by town meeting voters in 2010. Designing and constructing sewer infrastructure is a multi-year process that must be started now to enable revenue growth for the future. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Is there anybody here from Capital Planning? Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 10?
I think you know my name by now.
Could you please tell us your name and your address?
George Wheeler,
Thank
10
you.
Lothrop Street. Was this 22 million two in the override proposal in July or June, I guess?
No.
It was not. And it just, out of the clear blue sky, appeared. Why weren't we advised that this was coming up? It's not in your current budget. So how can a $2 million number jump up?
The sewering of old habit, of the industrial park has been part of the town's public infrastructure planning for decades. It requires an agreement with the city of Brockton that we had worked on for a very long time, but it's one of those things that unless both parties agree, you don't get. And we made progress and broke through that this winter. So we have that now. And so now we need to move on it. So it didn't fall out of the sky. This has been identified. You can go back to the year 2000 at least, when the town
as a town, what is that consequence for denying this?
You would be sabotaging your own publicly adopted, longstanding economic development goals. This town has relied on the commercial tax revenue generated by sewer investments for over 10 years now. We have been at town meeting in this room many times, and one of our residents from one of the districts spoke earlier, come to present on sewer planning and construction. But these are plans that were adopted by town meeting that went through the select board. And again, the industrial park was prioritized at the top of that list of where it made the most sense to generate future jobs and economic development. But because that wasn't an area that we had the capacity to sewer ourselves, it's always been hinged on that municipal work, which we are glad we now have in front of us. So it could risk losing access to those 80,000 gallons a day of treatment because the city is not going to kind of put those in escrow for us forever. They have their own development needs that they're trying to meet. And so if we don't advance on this at a certain point, the town could lose access to that, and that will just continue to constrain the economic development potential for the industrial park for decades. Thank you.
I'm sorry, but I can't accept the fact that there was no contract in position back in June of this year, when we discussed the override and the budgets were given to us before we voted. I would suggest that we save $2 million and see what happens. Thank you.
I just want to also clarify for voters' information, those are completely separate funding mechanisms. This is not a $2.2 million cash advance that would have been appropriate to be in an operating override period. It is typical for us to go through the capital planning process, which is a process established by town meeting, to lay out what these needs are over time. And in this case, we're seeking a borrowing authorization and not laying out available cash because we have outstanding grant awards that we're hopeful for, but we don't have them in hand yet, that, as with any capital borrowing authorization, if this fall, when the United States government reopens, if we receive the grants that are outstanding, we simply will not issue these bonds. We would come back to town meeting and rescind it. But this gives us the ability as a community to move forward on this, whether we get some grants, a lot of grants, no grants. And again, this is not funded through operations or an operating override, and the borrowing cost, even without grants, is largely paid through betterments, which are assessed to the specific properties, in this case commercial properties, that benefit from the infrastructure.
Dale Carrister, 21 South Street. As I understand it, we currently have 3 sewer districts in town, and from figures I just saw online today, those sewer districts are now materially increase the amount of contribution for our tax revenues associated with commercial, industrial, and personal property. So in other words, as a result of the investments that we've made in those sewer districts, we're actually increasing our tax revenue, which is extraordinarily important in light of all of the budget issues that we are currently facing. If I understand correctly, what this would do by spending certain money for the design services would be allow the town to go forward in order to invest by that infrastructure to attract more of the industrial tax base to Easton. And I've seen a lot of complaints on Facebook and otherwise. People are complaining about Easton not doing enough to support bringing more industry in town. But am I correct that by spending some money, the expectations you're going to make more money by attracting more industries to Easton and increase that industrial tax revenue?
Yes. Yes.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 10? Okay, seeing none, Article 10 requires a 2/3 majority vote in order to pass. All those in favor of Article 10, please raise those orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise those orange cards. And Article 10 passes by a 2/3 majority. Article 11, Select Board Member Stacy.
I move that the town vote to amend the Town of Easton Sewer District map to adjust the northern boundary as shown on the plan titled Proposed Amendment to Five Corners Sewer District as depicted on the screen.
Second.
By way of explanation, town meeting voted to adopt a sewer district map with 5 discrete needs areas in 2010, including the Five Corners needs area. As part of the replacement of police, fire, and public works facilities authorized by Easton voters in 2021 and 2023, public safety headquarters and public works facilities were sited on Depot Street on town-owned land due in part to its proximity to the Five Corners sewer. At the time of the project approval, the exact boundaries of the municipal site were pending final design and permitting, and so inclusion of the address in the sewer district has awaited the delineation of the parcel 11R-13B and assignment of an address 570 and 580 Depot Street, which is now complete. The Five Corners sewer system has sufficient capacity for these facilities, and the municipal parcel is now ready for inclusion in the district. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 11? Okay, seeing none, Article 11 requires a simple majority vote in order to pass. All those in favor, please raise those orange cards, and all of those opposed, please raise your orange card. And Article 11 passes by a majority. Article 12, Select Board Member Stacy.
I move that the town vote in accordance with the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee to appropriate the sum of $234,730 from Community Preservation Fund Fiscal Year 2026 annual revenues for exterior restoration of the Children's Museum in Easton.
Second.
By way of explanation, this article would provide $234,730 for exterior restoration of the historic fire station building now used as the Children's Museum in Easton, including roofs, windows, doors, porches, stairways, and painting. The Children's Museum in Easton has received an additional $129,000 in Mass Cultural Council grant to assist with this restoration. The Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Community Preservation Committee. Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 12? Okay, seeing none, Article 12 requires a simple majority vote in order to pass. All those in favor, please raise those orange cards, and all of those opposed. And Article 12 passes by a majority. Article 13, Select Board Member Stebbins.
I move that the town vote in accordance with the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee to appropriate the sum of $13,000 from Community Preservation Fund Fiscal 2026 annual revenues for evaluation and permitting for the rehabilitation of 4 town-owned ponds.
Second.
By way of explanation, invasive aquatic plant species are compromising water quality, ecological systems, and recreational opportunities in Easton's ponds. This article would provide $13,000 for evaluating Langwater Pond and Shovel Shop Pond and for rehabilitation work permitting for New Pond and Old Pond. The Conservation Commission secured an additional $5,000 Taunton River Stewardship Grant for the evaluation of New Pond and Old Pond. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Community Preservation Committee. Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 13?
I hope you people were here last meeting, last June. My name is George Wheeler, 10 Lothrop Street. We went through this business not too long ago. Pardon? What?
You have to turn this way, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
We went through this exercise in June. We stopped spending wildly because for the previous 4 years we didn't behave. We spent money foolishly, or we didn't control our budget. But now we're taking care of the fire station, which is an antique. I'm sure it's a great piece of property. I've been there many times. But by God, that can be put off another time. Our town is sucking air. They're falling apart. We've got to stop our spending. We turned down the override to get this thing going straight. Now we stopped. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to get any decent answers. Thank you.
You can come up, Amanda. There's one more person. Go ahead, sir.
Derek Papagno, 2 New Pond Way. I just want to speak in support of this quickly. I've grown up, I've watched this invasive species creep in on these ponds. It's really exploded in the past 5 years or so. It's only going to get worse over time. It's not something we kick down the road. It will just get more expensive in the future, so it's a great time to handle this now. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 13? Okay, seeing none, Article 13 requires a simple majority vote. All those in favor, please raise those orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise your orange cards. And Article 13 passes by a majority. Article 14, Select Board Member Stebbins.
I move that the town vote in accordance with the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee to appropriate the sum of $326,550 from Community Preservation Fund fiscal 2026 annual revenues for restoration of the historic Wheaton Farm barn.
Second.
By way of explanation, this article would provide $326,550 to address long-standing needs, including roofing, windows, doors, siding, and cupola, and the south addition and interior work at the circa 1850 town-owned Wheaton Farm barn, enabling its more active agricultural use. An earlier $190,000 CPA grant helped stabilize the building, and the Conservation Commission and the Friends of Wheaton Farm are providing additional funding. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Community Preservation Committee.
Community Preservation Committee recommends.
Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 14?
Kevin O'Dwyer, 183 Elm Street, and from Langwater Farm. And our organization farms the fields at Wheaton Farm. We grow mixed organic vegetables there. And I just want to encourage everyone to vote yes in support of it. From a practical standpoint, a working, viable farm needs a barn. We're fortunate to have other fields and other barns to use, but our operation could certainly use it. It would be very useful, and any other operation that farms land in the future would absolutely need it. And then just from a aesthetic and a valued town resource, it's a beautiful old barn. The inside has hand-hewn posts and beams, some unique joinery in the roofing trusses. And with every storm, every nor'easter, every blizzard that comes by, more shingles get ripped off the roof and more water damage is sustained to the structure. And if we don't act soon, then we'll lose the barn. And that would be a tragedy and an embarrassment to the town to lose such a beautiful old historic structure. There's not many barns left like it in New England. So I hope that everyone would support it. And I would also like to add that, once the improvements are made and the structure is preserved and stabilized, that our organization would maintain it and upkeep it, perform all the maintenance during the duration of our license agreement. Thank you.
David Plant again from Berwick Road. One quick question on the barn use. Is it rented out to the public, or is that, if it's for agricultural purposes, who's doing the I understand there are groups that take part in it, in the use of the farmland that we do have, but is that particular barn rented out for those people who do use it?
Hi, Wayne Beitler, Community Planner. It is part of the tenancy agreement with with Langwater Farm, who maintains the fields. So it is used, and they do use it, and will maintain it once it's in a state of good repair.
All right, any other questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 14? Okay, seeing none, Article 14 requires a simple majority vote to pass. All those in favor, please raise those orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise your orange cards. And Article 14 passes by simple majority. Article 15, Select Board Member Stebbins.
I move that the town vote to amend its historic district bylaw by inserting, after subsection 152-13, appendices, Appendix 3, Hayward Pool District, Hayward Pool Historic District, Appendix 4 is printed in the warrant under Article 15, and to accept the report of the Easton Historical Commission acting as the local Historic District Study Committee in relation to this article.
Second.
By way of explanation, at the 2010 annual town meeting, it was voted to adopt the Chapter 152 Local Historic District, establishing the Ames Historic District pursuant to Massachusetts General Law. The district at that time included the former Ames Shovel Works and Complex and the 7 H.H. Richardson buildings located in the northeastern village area. The establishment of this district ensured that redevelopment of the structures located within the district would be appropriate and contextual with the historic character of the district. The Ames Historic District was expanded at the 2013 annual town meeting to include additional structures along Main Street, Sullivan Avenue, and Oliver Street. The Hayward Pool Historic District was established at the 2020 special town meeting to provide protection for 5 historically significant homes and a cemetery along Foundry Street and Morse Road in South Easton. This Josiah Keith Historic District is a single property local historic district at 479 Bay Road and will protect the oldest house in Easton with portions built in 1717 and its historic outbuildings and setting. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Easton Historical Commission. Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 15? Okay, seeing none, Article 15 requires a simple majority vote in order to pass. All those in favor, please raise those orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise your orange cards, and Article 15 passes. Article 16. By majority, sorry. Select Board Member Fulgenetti. Getting lazy.
I move that the town amend Section 235-44 and Section 235-60 of the town zoning bylaw as printed in the warrant.
Second.
By way of explanation, the town updated and amended its accessory dwelling unit bylaw at the November 18th, 2024 special town meeting to align the town's bylaw with then recently adopted state legislation. In early 2025, the state's Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities issued updated ADU regulations in 760 CMR 71.00. This warrant article amends the Easton bylaw's definition of accessory dwelling unit to comply with the updated state regulations, specifically the definition of an ADU in 760 CMR 71.02, and also restricts the use of ADUs for short-term rentals. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Planning and Zoning Board. It has to be.
The Planning and Zoning Board at their meeting on September 29, 2025 met and voted 4 yes, 0 no to recommend Article 16.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 16? Seeing none, Article 16 requires a simple majority vote. In order to pass, all those in favor of Article 16, please raise your orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise your orange cards. And Article 16 passes by a majority. Article 17, Select Board Member Fulgenetti.
I move that the town vote to accept, acquire by gift, purchase, take by eminent domain, or otherwise acquire Sherwood Drive Lane as a public way and any appurtenant easements thereto, and to authorize the Select Board to take any and all actions related thereto as printed in the warrant. The explanation is Sherwood Drive is a right-of-way that provides access to 5 residential lots in the Summer Heights residential subdivision approved by the Planning and Zoning Board in 1972. Sherwood Drive was inspected recently by the Planning Department and Department of Public Works and found to be in good repair and in accordance with the as-built plan. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Planning and Zoning Board. Mr. Reed.
At their meeting on July 28, 2025, the Planning and Zoning Board voted 5 yes, 0 against to recommend Article 17.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 17? Okay, seeing none, Article 17 requires a 2/3 majority vote. In order to pass, all those in favor, please raise those orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise your orange cards. And Article 17 passes by 2/3 majority. Thank you. Okay, before I consider a motion to adjourn, I just want to take a minute to thank all the veterans in the town of Easton, all the veterans everywhere, and all the veterans in this room. So if you're a veteran, could you stand? Anybody? Thank you all. So tomorrow we all recognize a day off, but please take the time and thank a local veteran or anybody that is a veteran. And now I'll take a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Any seconds?
Second.
Okay, I
All
need
in favor?
a vote. Everybody want to adjourn? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.